Professor Hanshaw. What can I say? Professor of philosophy with 3 PhDs, a low opinion of students, and tenured, which was his license to kill. But none of that mattered. If you had the stamina to sit through his indoctrination, it really came down to one thing. Do you believe in God or not? Each semester, at the end of the final lecture, he would open a brand new box of chalk, pull out one stick, hold it in the air, and announce, "If there is anyone here who still believes in God, stand up." You couldn't win. Hanshaw had worked out every possible scenario and could make anyone look and feel like an idiot at his earliest convenience. So if everyone stayed seated, you were rewarded.
I see that you're all wise beyond your years.
And if you stood,
You fool!
he wins, you lose. Those were the rules.
Look, relax, man. Tomorrow you just go down there and drop the class.
You can't. It's a prereq for next semester.
Well, at least go down there and try to transfer into another class.
I already tried. Hanshaw is the only one teaching it this semester.
What about voodoo?
You just might have to suck it up and take the class.
To be honest, I wasn't really upset about being in Hanshaw's class. But what about voodoo?
Use it to your advantage.
Thanks, Boyd. You're real pal. Yeah, I'll use voodoo. That's great.
Look, I got him too.
I have him.
What bugged me was I knew defending my beliefs would cause me night sweats.
Voodoo.
Come on, Pan.
There is absolutely no point to existence, and this, Maria, is why there is no God.
How can you be absolutely sure there is no God? To do that, you would have to be God, right?
Excuse me?
If I understand you correctly, sir, what you're really telling us is that you are God.
Young man, I'm telling you there is no God.
That's what I thought you said. So what you're really telling us is that you are God. Because by stating that there is no God, you are saying that you have the ability to be everywhere in the universe at the same time and observe for yourself that there is no God. You may not see God singing in one of these seats. Is he in the janitor's closet?
God is not in the janitor's closet, David.
How do you know that? You can't see what's in the janitor's closet right now, can you? So since you don't know whether or not God's in the janitor's closet for sure, demonstrates to me that you are not God. So do you still want to stand behind your original statement that you are God? And if so, it's nice to meet you.
Shut up. I want everyone to shut up. Shut up, please.
Gauging from the smirk on your face, this is going to be a great semester.
I got a live one this time. The very first class. He's already launched his attack. I don't think much is going to come of this. He's already tried challenging me on the first day, and that sort of challenge doesn't usually come until 4 or 5 lectures into the semester.
So, tell me, is he going to be a sitter, or is he going to stand at the last lecture?
My sense is he's already used up half his artillery. He'll use up the other half trying to save face. Once he starts listening to what I have to say, he's going to learn how irrelevant the whole God thing really is.
Don't get your hopes up too soon. Just want to warn you, this semester can be a long time.
It's just that it's been years since I've had anyone this belligerent. I find that exciting.
For the next several weeks, I got to watch David and Professor Hanshaw go toe-to-toe. I've never been in the presence of anyone who had an understanding of God like David did. The discussions were riveting, and it soon became my favorite class. Excuse me. Are you in Professor Hanshaw's Monday, Wednesday, Friday class?
Yeah,
I'm Todd Hall.
David Hunt, nice to meet you.
I just want to say thanks for sticking it to the professor. We can tell you're making him struggle.
Yeah, well, I'm not trying to make him struggle. I'm simply trying to get him to think of what he's saying. I mean, if you're going to teach something, you should have a firm understanding of the subject.
I agree.
I take it you believe in God.
Oh, I do.
So why don't you take his stand when he starts talking out both sides of his head?
I read and I study, but I still have a long way to go.
If you wait until you think you're ready, you're never going to do it. So what are you waiting for?
It's scary. He turned me into an idiot.
So, are you gonna stand when the time comes?
Good morning, all. Yesterday, I was approached in the elevator by a student in this class. Where are you? Stand up, please, would you? Will you tell us your name, please?
Todd Hall.
Again, please.
Todd Hall.
Yes. Now, what was the question when our paths crossed yesterday morning, Todd?
I said, sir, with respect, I don't have a problem with your not believing in God, but why do you insist upon giving anyone who does a hard time?
To answer that, let me ask you a question. Can God create a rock so big that he can't lift it?
What do you mean?
What do you mean, what do I mean? Can God create a rock so big that he can't lift it?
Well, how big do you want him to make it?
Really big.
Well, how big?
Big enough that he can't lift it. Answer the question, please.
Professor Hanshaw, can you do something you can't do? Because that's what you're asking God. You're wanting him to do something he can't do.
All right, then. You're helping me make my point. God can't do it. And if he can't do it, then he is not all-powerful. And if he is not all-powerful, there is absolutely no point in expending time and energy in pursuing him in any manner. Does that answer your question, Todd?
No, God is all-powerful.
You really haven't said anything in your question, Professor Hanshaw.
David, please.
I'm sorry, sir, but I want to clear something up. Now, Todd is trying to tell you that God is infinite, right?
So it would seem.
Well, for God to create a rock large enough that he couldn't lift the rock means that God would have to make the rock infinitely big, right? But when you create something, it's finite, because at one point in time it didn't exist. Basically what you're asking is, can God create an infinite finite? And he can't, because it's a contradiction. Just like he can't create round triangles, because by definition he can't do it. So your question's meaningless. You think you've said something when you really haven't. So I want to know what it is you're asking God to do.
I want to take this question just one step further. Let's just say that God can create a rock infinitely big, one that he cannot lift. And because God cannot lift that rock, proves he is not in control.
No, he is in control. I want to know where you want God to lift it to. If the rock's infinite, it's going to be everywhere. So what do you mean lift? Move it where? Your argument's problem, Professor Hanshaw, lies in your questions, not in your answers.
Professor Hanshaw was getting desperate. His reluctance to admit the existence of God was an attempt to protect the notions he had of himself, That being a strong, self-reliant, and an innately good person, but mostly the fact that he was an innately good person, and no student was going to be allowed to tamper with it. Protecting his self-image was exactly what he was doing every time he stepped behind the podium.
You want to talk about it?
Oh, stop it. It's like having two wives.
Well, we wives tend to worry.
Well, there is something wrong. Jennifer and I were talking about it just last night.
It's David, isn't it?
It's not exactly David, it's what he talks about. I shouldn't have to be made to feel guilty for living my life the way I see fit. Don't lie. Don't steal. Don't lust after your secretary. All that sort of thing feels perfectly natural to me, just as I'm sure certain aspects of this feel natural to you. And to have someone, a perfect stranger, tell you that what feels natural is somehow wrong, is somehow wrong. It's as if I were being told that I'm broken from the word go. Well, I am not broken, thank you very much. And to have people like David create a God out of thin air who can fix everything and make it all go away. Meanwhile, you still lust after your secretary and steal office supplies. It's absurd.
Maybe we are broken. You, me, people. But you have to admit, the concept of forgiveness is terribly attractive.
Don't you understand that implies a standpoint of weakness? Don't you have any pride in you at all? I simply am trying to show these poor students that they don't have to go through life feeling guilty about what comes naturally. That's why I dropped the chalk.
Do you not have your own fries?
Well, yeah, but yours tastes better.
Hey, so what are we gonna do? Sit or stand?
Stand.
Take a hit on your GPA?
Well, it's principle.
Forget principle. Bite the bullet and walk with a passing grade.
So you don't think there's a God, huh?
There's a God. I just had it with Hansel's garbage. God knows my heart.
What about you?
Oh, I'm a sitter. But after everything David has said, I'm not so sure anymore.
Well, what is it? I mean, are you sitting or are you standing?
Let's not talk about this right now, okay?
Hello, it's tomorrow. You have to decide.
Well, standing would enrage him, and that would be fun.
But where do you stand on the inside?
You gotta be true to yourself.
Well, you just told us, Mr. Integrity, you were sitting but believed there was a God.
Touche. Okay, I'm standing. So you standing or not?
I don't know yet.
Well,
I told you, I don't know yet, and I meant it.
Hey, Handshot's the enemy here. I'm standing. You can go take a flying leap off of, I don't know what, but I'll make it up in summer session.
tomorrow then.
2 tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Everyone readied for the next day in his or her own way. My night of preparation was like Christmas Eve for a 5-year-old. But instead of the excitement of anticipation, the night was filled with the anxiety of making a choice. Do I stand for what I've come to know is true? Or take matters into my own hands and run the risk of falling flat on my face? I was faced with myself, and I didn't like it.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the moment of truth. Today, I ask you one simple question about the existence of God. You've heard the arguments against the existence of God. You've had ample time to consider my arguments. Now, my father always told me of the value of actions over words. So, if you believe there is an all-powerful God, you must also believe that he can stop this piece of chalk from breaking when it hits the floor. Stand now. May I remind you, it has always broken. Going once. Going twice. So, he's the only one. All right, then. Let's see who is going to be the fool today.
Dave!
Hey, man. Hey. What happened in there, man? That was great.
Whether or not the chalk breaks doesn't change the fact that there's a God. And that's why I stood.
What we saw that day was a miracle. I learned that God didn't necessarily have to part the waters to get his point across. From the safety of my seat, I watched my friend stand for what he believed, and watched God work his miracle. As for Professor Hanshaw, the reign of terror in Philosophy 101 had ended. Chalk was all Professor Hanshaw needed to make his point, and it was also the only thing God needed to make his. I will never sit again.